Echoes of 25th of June 2024, 1 year on, is a conversation that we continue into this hour. And we're joined by two individuals that you've seen before, you've heard before. And something within them rings very true, and we're going to continue with that song this hour. Joshua Okayo is the leader and revolutionary Gen Z of the Revolutionary Gen Z movement, and he's here with us in the studio, as well as Shakira Shakira, who is an active citizen. Both, good morning and welcome to the Situation Room.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Karibu Sana, we're so glad that you're here. We've seen both of you in different capacity. Of course, that famous picture of you, Shakira, when you're essentially looking into the face of what many would say fear, and you were unbowed and said, no, this is my right. This is a country that I will fight for. So that's famous as well. We saw you, Joshua, having been taken for many days, not quite sure what was going to happen to you, and came out again unabowed and said, you know what, we're going to continue, and there's something that we will fight for. Those stories we talk about today, but we talk about that against the backdrop of what will happen in the country moving forward. We'll do that in just a bit, but we want to welcome you to the Situation Room with a proverb. Dennis will tell you what country we're in this week. We would like to hear your interpretation of the proverb that he shares.
Yeah, the country we're in this week is Ethiopia. Ethiopia, a country that has never been colonized before. It is also a country that is considered to be the birthplace of coffee, not just coffee, but also humanity, due to Lucy, who's about 3.2 million years old. And as we talk about that, our proverb today is when the drumbeat changes, the dance must also change. When the drumbeat changes, the dance must also change. Shakira, ladies first. How would you interpret that?
In the context of Kenya?
Whichever. In the context of Shakira.
Shakira, yes.
I mean, from a basic, like almost direct translation, if you're on the dance floor and the beats change, if you still keep moving the beats of the previous song, you look like a crazy person on the dance floor. And to put that in the context of Kenya, I feel like that is what we're experiencing right now with the political class. I feel they are struggling to accept that the sample of Kenyans that they are currently dealing with is not the same they've dealt with before. And now they are fighting for the status quo to remain the same. And we are adamant that, no, it is time for change, and we need change as soon as now.
All right.
Yeah, I think it speaks to being able to change with times. Yeah, so that then, the constant thing is change. Change is constant. And when things change, when circumstances change, it's better to find better ways to deal with the circumstances as they are in the moment, rather than sticking to old ways of doing things or being a bit rigid to not accept that things have changed and you have to find better ways of doing things. In our circumstance now, we are at a very different point where the young people have decided that things must change and we are not going to continue living as we are used to for the past, say, 10, 20 years, and that we have to see a bigger picture. We have to find another direction as a country. Yes.
And so we get into, it's great to hear this. It's interesting how you can take a proverb and you can apply it personally, but you can also apply it to the things that we see happening with us. In our job to share information in a transparent, accountable way, we are very few times short of fodder to share. In the last few weeks, things have happened in such rapid succession that makes us then have to really fight to keep up, but to share that information in truth and fact, because those two are not mutually exclusive, as well as to also put it out in a way that people will take that information. And I'm sure you're wondering, where is she going with this? Last year, the Mandamano happened, the protests happened, and that was a one-day event. But the call seems to be a 365-day event. And we share the information as we see it. And every day, literally, there's something that would happen that would point to the 365-day call from these protests. I want to hear from both of you here. Where are we now in relation to what happened a year ago and 365 days later, when we are saying again people will come out in protest in memory of the people that we lost? We'll start with you, Joshua.
All right. I think we've gone back to the same situation we were last year, where we feel unheard, we feel unresponded to, and we feel that duty bearers are not concerned with the voices of the common person, and especially the young people. And because last year, as we were going to the street, and it was not one day, there were 3 good days, 18th, 20th, and 25th. And immediately after that, we saw a bit of reactionary actions by the president and the whole executive, and there are certain orders that were made. One of which was to sack all the cabinet secretaries and start afresh. Unfortunately, not so long after, more than half of those that had been appointed, that had been sacked, were returned to those positions. And some were appointed in other positions, including economic advisors and so on and so forth. And that means all those people, some of whom we complained about, were back to the system. At the same time, we were asking for accountability insofar as our money is concerned, because we were wondering that we have quite a number of we have debts, but at the same time we are being taxed, and there are so many other taxes that are being proposed in the Finance Bill 2024 then. And we were asking, where is all this money going to? Because the kind of development, if at all it's there, that we see is not commensurate to the amount of money that the people of Kenya contribute, plus the others that are taken in the name of debts. That has not changed 1 year down the line. And actually, there are still some more proposals to add tax. At the same time, we were talking about just good governance and good manners in public service, including we were fighting against public officers coming to the screens and showing us the value of what they own. At the same time, we were fighting for better education. We had this new funding model that the students were not welcoming at the time. It was implemented even before public participation, which is one of the greatest principles under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So we felt that things were being done by declaration, roadside declarations from the executive office, not really in line or in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and other laws. And that is why we went to the streets. 1 year down the line, we still see the same things happen. We have not seen anyone act on a better funding model for universities. We have not seen, SHA is not comprehensive because they are not covering outpatient. And even the inpatient, I will tell you, and I've had this experience, they don't cover everything. I don't want to tell my personal story, but yes, I have a personal story with SHA. At the same time, we still have public officers who have not been charged, total disregard of the rule of law and constitutionalism, because they've been mentioned in certain cases, but they're still serving. No one has questioned them. Us, the citizens, are questioning, but no one really takes initiative to follow up. So we are still at the same point 1 year down the line, and that's why we are saying, even as we go to commemorate our friends and soldiers and comrades whom we lost last year, we are still fighting for a better Kenya. We are still fighting for the things that we were fighting for last year. And we have established that the people power can actually speak and listen to be listened to.
True.
It only depends on how intensive you do it, because it's become clear that no one wishes to have a conversation with us. No one wishes to have a dialogue with us. It is until you do something very big that they would want to throw in the words of let's talk, let's discuss, let's dialogue. Yeah.
It's interesting you talk about intensive, because Shakira's also here, and as we said before, that famous picture, because this what we see then is a picture of exactly what Joshua is saying, that famous picture where you're defiant in the face of somebody who could essentially end your life in a minute, that you were not afraid to stand up and say, this is our right. And I believe those are the words that you spoke at that point, and you said, this is our right, we have a right to do this. But then not just that, because even last week we saw you living out another thing where it was said from court that we will not have police officers masked, and you literally went and took a mask off the face of a police officer and ran off. At that moment, did you know what you were doing?
To be honest, I like to believe that I was somewhat in control, but the level of guts that I see when I look at the pictures and videos after they actually surprise me as well. To be honest, there's this adrenaline that usually have when you're out on the streets and something happens. I was with a comrade. It's not even an individual I know personally, but we were there chanting next to each other, and he accidentally bumped into that policeman, and that policeman came to chase after him and try and catch him. And I looked around, and he was the only masked policeman at that point. And I feel like the reason why a lot of these policemen are able to come out with certain force and brutality is because when they are covered, it is hard to identify them, and therefore they can almost get away with anything. And I remembered the court orders, and we actually started speaking, and we said, why are you covering your face? You need to remove your mask. And he did not, why are you so adamant on hiding your face? He refused to remove his mask, and that's when I moved forward to remove the mask from him. Unfortunately, the police officer next to him tried to aim a tear gas directly at me, and that's when I ran away. But it was a spur of the moment thing, and in a lot of what runs in my mind mostly is, why can't people just do the right thing?
Well, Shakira, just before you proceed, you were actually discussed in Parliament, press conferences later on, and they say, look, as much as you have a right to protest, you also don't provoke a police officer. And there was that argument that, reaching out to try and grab was almost, you're taunting the officer, you're provoking the officer, sort of in like wanting to be like violent, and the police have no option but to also, and that discussion happened in Parliament actually, and there are those who say, no, it shouldn't have happened. In that part of the moment when you're doing it, what was this police officer doing or saying? What was their reaction? And how do you view that statement that, you're also provoking the police?
I personally feel like we are the ones who are being provoked. If we are peacefully protesting, we are out on the streets, and all we are doing is just raising banners and chanting. And these fully uniformed police officers come at you trying to, capture you, and you're not doing anything wrong. And you try to have a conversation. The video starts from where we are now in that scuffle, but people didn't see the before, where we are asking, why do you want to arrest this man? Why is your face covered? Remove your mask. Even if you look at the video, you can hear people in the background saying, toa mask. So it is, I feel like in actually all the protests, it is usually peaceful until the police decide to show up and do whatever it is they're doing. Because in fact, that was on a Tuesday. The next Thursday, usually we start our protests with a media brief. We were tear gassed at the media brief. Literally, there's nothing we were doing. We're just standing, speaking to the press, and one police officer threw two tear gas canisters back to back at us. So between me, a common mwananchi, and the police officer who has the responsibility of actually ensuring that things go in order, when you are the one who's coming to disrupt and initiate the chaos, who is provoking who?
I think based on that, I will just ask you, Joshua, now. In 2025, there is a series of things that happened where you were abducted and kept for 72 hours. Then there is a question of
24.
24?
Yeah.
24. Then we have you're tortured, blindfolded, and dumped near Muranga River. Now, we go to 2025 and you were marked by a police officer. I remember seeing that clip, you asking the police officer, why have you marked me? You wanted even to go record a statement on the same, and further reports show that the same officer beat you up the following day. I remember you being rushed to hospital for assistance. Yeah. And if you compare 2024 and 2025, seems as though nothing really has changed.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying. Nothing has changed. Actually, in 2024, after the abduction in June, we were arrested when we were protesting against abductions in December, on December 30th. And we were 23 of us who were arrested. We slept at Central. And that day, that evening, the police actually fought us physically.
At the cells?
At the cells, yes. Yes.
Well, inside Central Police.
Inside Central
You're
Police.
being beaten.
Yes.
By who?
On 30th December.
By who?
By the police.
Why?
Led by the OCS Talam. I have made several posts about my shirt that was torn. I slept in the cells in cold because I didn't have a shirt.
Wait, you said you were arrested, 23 of you.
Yes.
You were all put in one cell?
We were put in one cell. No, we were put, there's that general cell before you get into the inside cells.
Yeah.
So we were all of us together. So their plan was to separate us to be easy for them to manage us in the cells. So they wanted to take us to different cells, but we refused. So we didn't want to be separated. Because the moment you are separated in police cells, that is where the problem begins.
So you refused and then you all thrown
So
into
we
one cell.
refused, and then they said, okay, Mekata, fine. Then they went out. The OCS came back with about 20 or so police officers with their batons. Yes. And they started beating us in the cells.
The same officer, the same OCS that we're speaking about now that has been charged with murder?
Yes.
Or that would be recommended to be charged with murder.
Yes.
So they were punching you, they were using batons?
They were using batons, they were punching us, holding us, and all that. It was chaos. All that were there, all those guys who were there really witnessed chaos. So we fought for about 10 minutes. And that is when that my shirt, my very it's my favorite shirt, was torn all over, and people had bruises. People were some were bleeding, some were injured in the arms and all that.
Joshua, just for a second there, there are two ways somebody can beat you.
Yeah.
Now in this instance, like what Shakira was explaining earlier, somebody now, this other officer wanted to lob a tear gas canister at her before running. In the police cell, before this, when the OCS Talam now came into the cell, when he was beating you with these other, how many police officers again?
I can't tell exactly how many, but there were many.
There were many
20,
officers, about 20 officers.
Yeah.
There are two types of beatings. There's one where, you're being beaten like you're being disciplined, usirudie yo makosa tena. But then there's also the beating ya kinyama, like it's somebody beating you like they want to kill you.
Utajua mimi ni mdosi.
Yeah, like so in your case, can you describe?
But both are wrong.
Both are wrong. They're wrong. I'm just saying. I'm trying to establish something here.
Someone beating you into submission. They want you to submit.
Okay.
Yes. So they were beating us with the batons to submit.
It didn't matter where it's your head. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter. You had you had to find a safe space to be beaten. You're the one to expose a safer part of your body to be beaten. 30th deck, 2024.
That was your first encounter with OCS Talam?
Yes, that was the first encounter in person.
How long were you there at Central?
No, we spent just one night. The next day we were taken to the courts.
Okay.
Now after that, we come to 17th. Was it on 17th? Monday. This particular police officer, we were just marching. We were from City Mortuary. heading to Central Police Station because we had ensured that we camped there for the autopsy. So we marched to Central, and then when we got to that bridge, crossing over to University of Nairobi and Central, they decided now to sort of cover so that we don't access Central Police Station. But we were not relenting, so we were proceeding on. And the moment they saw we were proceeding on, this one police officer lobbed tear gas canister, and then I went to ask him, why are you tear gassing us? We are just walking to Central Police Station. In any case, this is a public institution. We are walking in there. And then when I asked him that, he said, I've marked you. Nimekumark na nitakupata kwa hizi streets.
Okay, we're going to take a break in just a bit. But all of these, whether it's, Shakira holding up the flag and saying, this is our right, or whether it's you withstanding this torture because of opening your mouth and speaking and asking for, that that whoever hears for change, that we are seeing something that has come to the place whereby there is a question, and sometimes hurtful to hear, but it needs to be answered and it needs to be discussed. That there is the thought that we thrive in this chaos, that there's something we enjoy about what could happen as a result, that we enjoy to tell these stories of people who've been tortured in the cell, or somebody who has to run for her life because she feels a tear gas canister will be thrown into her chest. Is it enjoyable? Is it a day where you can come out and do something different? Is it months of just saying, okay, well, let's run after the police. This should be fun today because I have nothing better to do on a Wednesday? Or is it real change that's being sought after? Start with you, Shakira. You've heard it before, have you not?
Yes, actually. And just the other day, I was having a conversation with my mother, and she was asking me, basically, aren't you fearful of your life? And I said, to be honest, I wish I was in a situation where I could just wake up, prepare my son to go to school, go to work, and the most exciting thing that happens to me is maybe somebody smiles at me different during the day. But unfortunately, the situation we are in right now as a country does not allow us as citizens to lead a boring, basic life. Because you wake up in the morning, you walk out of the door, and there's a high chance you cannot come back. Not because you've done anything wrong, because some individual somewhere decides you're not worth continuing your life because you decided to question something, because you decided to post something online, or just because you wear a t-shirt that has a certain message that they do not agree with. We live in a country where you're at risk just because you are a young person who has a different opinion from what is agreeable to the political class. That is not a situation where I'm okay to sit back and watch and do nothing about it, and I'm capable of doing something about it. So if for a specific day the most I can do is tweet, but that tweet means I'm risking my life, then that is okay, because this is a situation that I do not wish to have upon my child when he's come of age and he's facing the same problems as I'm experiencing, because I was too cowardly to, put up a fight or question something. I wish I was just capable of ignoring everything and go about my business as a regular person, but it is hard to ignore. The economy is not working, and people have interacted with people. For example, on the Tuesday when goons attacked us, I was working with somebody and they pointed out at one of the goons and they're like, this is my neighbor, I know him. And we called him and we asked him, what are you doing? He said, I have nothing left to live for. This is a young person, barely 22, 23 years old. And his response is that I have nothing left to live for. So how much were you given? 1,000. So for you, 1,000 is good something enough to give you a reason to continue. It's like, but I mean, what else is there? He has tried day in, day out to come out and look for an opportunity to make money in a legitimate manner, but the opportunity does not exist for him. And this same person has people in leadership coming at him and telling him the only way you can earn money is if you go and cause chaos at fellow young people who are demanding justice.
You know, sometimes you get back to the house in the night and you ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because it's not like we don't have better things to do, and it's not like we really enjoy being on the streets or we enjoy fighting for something. It's just that things are not right, and something must give. Someone has to do something about it. And the moment you get to realize that person has to be you, then you get out and do it. So it's a matter of taking action. And it would be very selfish of us to not fight for something during our times when we are enjoying some freedoms that were fought for by other people. It is just in order that we also be so selfless as they were and fight for a better Kenya, because we have our future generations coming, and they would ask us questions. Should things not get better in future, they would ask us, what were you doing when it was your time?
I mean,
to
we are
fight for
asking
us?
our parents.
And some of us are asking our parents. But we're also appreciating the fact that there are things that were it not for the fight, we would not have achieved. And so we also have to proceed from there. We have to just upgrade. We have to make things better as we move on into the future.
We definitely do. Joshua and Shakira here this hour, and we're looking at a year gone by and asking questions about what's going to come in the coming days, what's going to come tomorrow. But one thing is clear, that the resolve is just as strong now as it was a year ago, and making very clear what the fight. Going into the 25th of June tomorrow. But and I often ask this question, that we mark a day, but the things that are being asked for, accountability, transparency, proper management, diminishing of corruption, good leadership, these are not marked by a day. These are things that are still being asked for. Do you find that we get caught up in the protesting and the running battles and all of this? Do you find that we lose sight of the agenda for the people, which is that it must be better? That people should not be unalived, that people should not be disappeared, that people should not, their children should be able to go to school, that money should not be stolen, impunity should not reign. Is that front and center in our minds when we go for these protests? Does it ever leave the mind when sometimes you're washing your eyes for tear gas, or you're thinking, no, I'm not going to go here because I don't want to be shot? Is that what is front and center in the mind, these things that we have talked about and that we insist on?
I feel like for the young people, the individuals who decide to be on the streets, that is usually the thing that keeps us there. When we see a police officer throwing tear gas at us, and we decide we can only retreat for a few seconds so that the air becomes cleaner and come back. That is what drives us. It is clear for us as a people. Unfortunately, I feel like the message is lost when it's being transmitted to the other side. The other side is focused on, let's make sure these people see that we are the ones in power. Let's make sure these people see that we don't particularly care about what it is they are calling for. And for them, the message might be lost, because while we are there calling for justice, while we are there saying, stop killing us, one of them is at the side directly shooting at an individual who's doing nothing wrong. Since Albert Ojwang was killed, 20 people have lost their lives at the hand of the police. That's 20, the ones that are reported and are actively being investigated by IPOA. That's 20 people in a span of less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks where young people are shouting day in, day out, we want justice, stop killing us. Why are you still killing people?
Now, when we talk about that, there is the aspect and allegations that have been put out there that demonstrators who go on the street in the name of Gen Zs have been bankrolled, they're being supported by opponents of government, that all these resources that the Gen Zs ostensibly have when going to the streets is because there is someone behind it. And there is the aspect that these Gen Zs just hate government and order. Okay, how would you respond to that?
First, let me before I come to that, let me pick up on, let me just weigh in on the other issue. I feel like we've always been objective, even as we go to the streets, and we always raise the issues when we go to the street, but we are never allowed to raise those issues. Someone made a comment the other day that why don't you actually address these issues that you're speaking about in interviews on the streets when you go to protest, so people actually know what you are protesting about. We try to do it, but the moment you stand to address those issues, tear gas canister, rubber bullet, someone is hit, someone is hurt, so you have to run around. You never get a chance to actually speak that which you've gone to the streets to protest about. Now, coming to you, I wish someone was able to support those that go to the street to do what they're doing, because it's not an easy job. It's not an easy thing. And no one actually wishes, no amount of money can pay for the danger you expose yourself to when you go to the streets. As far as I know, no one pays anyone, no one bankrolls any young person to go to the streets or to protest. These are issues we are passionate about deep down our hearts. And that's why sometimes we get hurt, we get injured, but we still wake up and go. Had someone paid, let's say me, to go to the streets before, maybe I would have taken the money, eaten, and I would be sleeping at home and improving my life. Is it not an option? If anything, some of these people have come to us to ask us, which one is better? Running on the streets, being beaten by police, or joining someone's established political party and being paid something at the end of the month, and they ensure your security and you are driven? Which one is better? I think the latter is better. If you look at it, for any young person who does not have a job, who's fighting for employment, to get employment, the latter is better. But we choose not to pick the latter because we know we are fighting for something long term, and that thing doesn't come easy. That's why we are willing to do all it takes, putting all our energies to ensure we fight for a better Kenya and for a better future. No one pays anyone. No one is inciting. If there is anyone, maybe those aligned to political parties. Because again, amongst us young people, we have people who are aligned to political parties. And they are there probably presenting the interest of their political party leaders. We do not deny that. But for majority of us, those of us who have not aligned to any political party, and we are not even looking forward to doing that, we are fighting a just cause.
Indeed. Shakira, do you think that because the way nations work is that, and democracies work is that the people have a voice, right? And that voice then is brought to life in governance, and that there's a few people in terms of representatives who then take that voice and they turn it into what we then see as policy, and that is then lived through departments and things. That's the way it works. So do we see then that even as we say these things and we have these protests, that change then, can come about because of these things that have been established? If the people's voice is not then being represented, do we see then that, and then how we say that should happen is when we go to the vote. That has been established. If we choose to follow that system, then what we are going to do to bring about that is the vote. Do we see that all this blood, sweat and tears that is literally being spilt on the streets will translate into better leadership if we go and, number one, register to vote, come out and actually vote? I'll give you an example. In Nigeria, we made noise, we said we wanted a new leader. Came out during the election, the people who had registered to vote, although that was a minimal number, then not 50% of those who had registered to vote actually came out on the day and voted. So there's a belief, or there's a thing that comes out and says, we can be in the street, we can picket, we can protest, but at the end of the day, the thing that has been entrenched in a nation state by its form of governance, if we don't do it, then all of this blood, this sweat, these tears, these threats, all of this will almost be seen as a waste if we don't finish. Because this, for me, is I see it as a journey. But if it doesn't end in this thing under which governance demands that we do constitutionally, according to the system of governance that has been chosen, if we don't finish, then this will be seen as a waste. Do you see that?
Yes, I really do. And something I keep saying, any opportunity that I get. At this point, personally, I'm not out on the streets to try and reach to the morality or consciousness of the current political class. They have shown us that they do not care, and they have shown us explicitly that they are not willing to do what is required of them. So personally, I'm out on the streets for the citizens, for my brothers and sisters, for my friends, for my mothers and fathers. I want the message sent out to all citizens of this country that it is up to us to bring about the change that we need in this country. Outside of yelling and shouting on the streets, I do so much together with other comrades and young people. We are moving around from county to county, using our own money, and some contributed by fellow citizens, to host town halls and civic engagement rallies and political education rallies. And this is the message that we are preaching. We are saying fagia wote. And when we say fagia wote, it is calling for a complete overhaul of governance. And that's going to start at the ballot. When people ensure that they have their national identity cards, when the voter registration is open, people go and register to vote. And not just register to vote anywhere, but where you actually live, because that's a lot of mistake Kenyans do. They want to pick voter registration for where they are originally from, but that's not where they spend their day-to-day in. So registering to vote, and then come election dates, I keep saying whether it's 2027, I wish it's sooner. If it's sooner, whatever the date is, that will actually turn up and vote, and not just vote and then go about our business. We're going to sit there and guard our votes, because the political class has already shown us they are interested, and they're already trying to manipulate how the election is going to go. So personally, I'm going to wake up very early, and I'm going to vote, and I'm calling for other citizens, especially young people. Young people are going to form 75% of the voters come the next general election. Turn out, vote, and sit there and guard your vote to ensure that the person you're voting for is actually who is going to go into leadership.
Let this not be for waste.
Because we know they are going to try and rig things and manipulate things. And then also when it comes to selecting leadership, we cannot say fagia wote, or we want change, and select the same individuals who have been there year in, year out. Personally, there is specific faces that I know, not because I want to know them, but because I have seen them time and time again. So it is time to give new people an opportunity. Craziness is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So why, instead of waiting to be disappointed by the same person who has disappointed us time and time again, how about give a new person an opportunity to serve? And if they disappoint you, it will be like, okay, oh well, we tried. But I mean, bringing in the same people and now complaining, it doesn't result in the kind of country that we want. So for me, it is fagia wote. Guard yourself with your ID. guard yourself with your vote, and let's take our minds, let's take our hearts into the electoral booth. Let's not agree to be swayed and bribed into selecting leaders that have already shown us that they are not going to serve our interests.
So Shakira, I mean, this question is for both of you, you and Joshua. The Standard has revealed a plot by state operatives to disrupt tomorrow's anniversary. From what you observed on Tuesday, some of the plans entail positioning goons in key protest zones across Nairobi CBD to unleash violence. And then the mission also includes snatching of phones to prevent documenting police brutality and how these goons are operating. Did you see a semblance of that on Tuesday? And what do you see happening tomorrow? And how are you guys then prepared? Will this now coming to light tomorrow? I'll start with you, Joshua.
Oh, all right. I don't know. I like going back, but I wanted to weigh in on what on the previous question. Apart from carrying out civic engagement and political education that the both of us are doing, we are not just making noise. You know, people mistake us for just noisemakers who go to the streets and fight police and do what. That is not what we are doing. We are also engaged in certain processes. As I speak to you, we have a petition here to the National Assembly to repeal Section 22 and 23 of this Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. The act that has been misused by people in power and politicians. So that then if you expose anything about them, they arrest you under Section 22 and 23. And that is the unfortunate arrest that befell Albert Ojwang, the late, rest in peace. And even Rose Njeri. So we have been we were born in a technological world, in a digital world.
We should say at this point that if we didn't see the news, that those cases, those charges have been dropped completely for the same reason that you're talking about, because that charge doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
We don't have a criminal, what is it called? Criminal libel. It's a civil tort.
Yeah.
So that's very unfortunate, and these are some of the things we are doing to ensure that we work on the system. But coming to you, we saw what happened on Tuesday last week, and we are very much aware that the state will do anything possible to unleash violence on us using goons. But we are also prepared.
How so?
We shall employ what we call the active non-violence. That is to ensure we are safe by any means necessary. We are not going to be violent on anybody, but we shall ensure we are safe by any means necessary. How so? We are not going to tell them, you don't reveal your tricks. We shall. And it's very unfortunate that the state gets to a point where they unleash violence on innocent young people just protesting for their rights, for that which is theirs. And we condemn them and we say, shame on you. Shame on you, whoever is doing this. Shame on the president because he's aware. Shame on the IG and DIGs and all the police officers. Shame on them. And shame on all political leaders who think that the solution and the alternative to responding to people's cries is unleashing goons and violence on innocent Kenyans. Shame on them. And that is why we are fighting. Because we don't want a Kenya where instead of people responding by offering solutions, they respond by violence and beating you.
Creating
and showing, creating all that. So we are getting down to what we call a banana republic, and we don't want that. That's why the young people are saying we are not relenting. Because the moment they unleash goons and you relent and say, sasa tunaogopa, now we can't go to the streets because they are goons, then they'll say, you see, dawa yao. That is
these goons are your fellow young people.
They are our fellow young people. That is the most unfortunate thing. That is the problem with poverty. Calculated poverty. So that they keep you poor to the extent that they will be able to bribe you with 1,000 shillings to beat your fellow young person that you live in the same plot with. And that is why we should emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. We should pull ourselves off that hole where we've been kept poor and we think it is normal. That is why we are talking about complete overhaul. And we are going to come out on whenever we will be doing elections. As we speak, this battle is not going to end tomorrow. It is going to continue up to until we will hold elections. And until then, we will be there to ensure that nothing passes our eyes.
we will ensure they are accountable to every action that they take.
Just to add on that, I feel like tomorrow is June 25th. It is mostly about sealing the date June 25th as a key moment in our history as a country. We are saying justice for our Mashujaa. And who are our Mashujaa? The young people who lost their lives standing rightfully and calling for what they believed was right. There are so many young people who got injured in the time, and we've seen somebody like Bahati was here before me, and they are still struggling to recover from these injuries and adjust their livelihoods based on what happened to them. We have parents, siblings who've lost their relatives and they're still mourning up to now. They haven't seen any form of justice being done. The most that we've seen is the inquest into Rex's Masai's death, and that's not a trial. It is an inquest to look whether the case is worth opening a trial for. 1 year down the line, not a single police officer has been arrested and prosecuted for maiming somebody's child, for killing an innocent person, and this is what tomorrow is about.
Indeed.
We want to the parents of these people, led by the mother of Rex Masai, they have a petition that we are going to help them deliver to the parliament and deliver the same message to the office of the president to invoke a judicial process where we are actually going to see people being brought into account. We are actually going to see whoever was responsible, first and foremost, losing their jobs and having cases being opened, and for some form of justice to these families, because no amount of money can bring back anyone to life, can compensate for the pain, but some form of compensation. And that is why these mothers have delivered these notifications to police stations across the countries, and police have come out to ensure that, to say that they are going to ensure it's going to be a peaceful process. So it's also going to be a litmus test towards the police, towards the people in government and whoever is responsible. Are they going to live up to their word? Because while they're out here speaking these things, we can see the kind of activities that is happening in the background.
Indeed.
We'll do our best to ensure security. We have contracted young people amongst ourselves whose sole purpose is to ensure that we have some form of safety for all the people coming out to march. But the buck stops. What's the saying? The people who are responsible, it is the police, it is the government.
The buck
So
stops the police,
they need to show us that they can actually do, give people some hope that you have come out and said this, and people are planning to come out. I have individuals who are coming out, the entire family, somebody with their parents and their kids, because it is this 25th is a significant day for all of us.
Indeed, and we can't but hope that it is a safe day, and that there will be no tears, and that there will be no violence, but that there will be justice. Thank you both for being here this morning. Joshua Okayo and Shakira Fula, thank you for joining us this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.